with you, many corporations, most industry sectors are more than willing to walk that path because they understand it, they get it, and they know it isn't compromising their investments. In fact, it's enhancing what they're doing, and it's ensuring fair and shared distribution of benefits to all people that are affected and involved.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Nepean.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of all Canadians, I would like to thank India and its Prime Minister Narendra Modi for providing 2 million AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine doses. 500,000 doses have been delivered, and the balance is expected in due course. This is what real friends do. Help each other in crisis. India has also supplied vaccine doses to some needy countries free or at subsidized cost. This is practicing the ancient Vedic sages saying in Sanskrit, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is one big single family. India is also offering technology transfer for commercial production of vaccines in Canada. These actions reconfirm the respect and affection of Canada and India have for each other. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Barrie-Innisfil.
Madam Speaker, National Volunteer Week starts April 18th, and this has been an incredible year in my riding of Barrie-Innisfil, with people stepping up like never before to help. And today I'd like to recognize several individuals and groups in our communities of Barrie and Innisfil who've been there to help each other and our most vulnerable, or simply to bring joy and hope to our communities when we've needed it the most. The Barrie Food Bank, Mark and Patty Satchu, the Innisfil Food Bank, Innisfil's incredible Jennifer Richardson and her family, Barrie Families Unite Facebook group, Don Mucci, the Women and Children Shelter of Barrie, Tom Hanrahan, Deb Harrison, VP of Christmas for Kids all year round, Marshall Green, Philip Purse for a sister, David Blankarn, Sandy Berube, the coldest night of the year in Barrie, Tracy Baker, Lexi Capercio, Glenn Rogers, and Bev Kell. Madam Speaker, I'll be hosting my 5th annual Barrie-Innisfil Volunteer Awards virtually soon to honor these and other terrific volunteers. On behalf of a grateful community and nation, thank you to everyone who volunteers to make a difference in your communities and in people's lives. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Davenport. I would ask the honourable member to put her mic on if she wants to be heard. No, it's not on. Is it plugged in? Okay, maybe what we'll do is we'll go to the next speaker until she can have it resolved, and maybe you could try to unplug it and replug it in. L'honorable député de La Prairie.
The member for La Prairie. Madam Speaker, as thousands of companies in Quebec are having a hard time qualifying for the wage subsidy program, all of political parties in this House, except for the Bloc, took advantage of the wage subsidy program. All parties except for the Bloc took money which should have gone to charities and businesses so they wouldn't have to dip into their own campaign war chests. So as they were taking that money, the Liberals raised over $15 million in donations in 2020. $22 million is what the Conservatives raised, and none of these political parties returned a single red cent that they had taken out of the wage subsidy program. So during the election campaign, every time you see an ad, remember that you paid part of this political ad. And every time the other parties talk about sacrifices made during the pandemic, remember they did not make any sacrifices. They took money for partisan purposes. Shame on them.
Madam Speaker, Toronto is one of the many parts of Canada deep into the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. I rise to recognize the unbelievable organizations in my riding of Davenport who have stepped up during all 3 waves to help our most vulnerable through this unprecedented time. The federal government created $350 million emergency community support fund. 32 organizations in Davenport were awarded a total of $1.3 million to address the urgent COVID-related needs of our community. Organizations like Horizons for Youth, Loyola Rupe, Quantum Sports and Learning, Latinas in Toronto, George Tuvalu Center, Vietnamese Women's Association, and so many more stepped up to provide a wide range of support. From remote services for seniors to warm meals for newcomers, these groups have been lifelines to countless residents. They are beautiful illustrations of how we step up to help each other during tough times, becoming stronger as a community. Together, we will get through this pandemic. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member for Nickel Belt. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to highlight the funding for the New Horizons programs for seniors recently announced for seniors in my riding. The money will help 9 projects to support their physical and mental well-being.
Community Garden, Skeed Seniors Club, Bon Appetit, Quilters, Rayside Belfour Craft Shop, Saint Gabriel Viola Chelmsford, and Killarney Lions Den. These initiatives promote laughter, joy, knowledge, sharing. These are essential to keep residents engaged. Isolation remains a real challenge for seniors during this pandemic. Thank you to volunteers, caregivers, essential workers, collaborating to prioritize well-being of our aging population. Let's continue reaching out to our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, and others around us. Remind them that we are there for them. Stay safe. Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
The honourable member for Niagara West.
Madam Speaker, Canadians are struggling to cope with the rise of COVID-19 cases, increasing lockdowns, and the effects of a struggling economy. Businesses are closed, workers are losing their jobs or having their hours cut. The mental health crisis has deepened. Canadian families are worried about their children. This is all because this government did not secure enough vaccines and did not secure them in time. We're far behind our neighbors to the south. Jake Tapper from CNN has brought this failure to the attention of our American cousins. The U.S. has already began to vaccinate monkeys in U.S. zoos. You can't make this stuff up. While here in Canada, we've only vaccinated 2% of our population. The vaccination issue is this government may go down in history as one of the biggest failures of any Canadian government during a crisis. Canadians and Canadian businesses are suffering because of it. The data and tools to effectively manage this pandemic already exist. It's time for this government to begin using them.
The honourable member for Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I am pleased to honor the many volunteers across Canada and in my home of Labrador. Next week marks National Volunteer Week, and we know in this legislature, it is really the volunteers who keep the pillars of our community strong. That was magnified more so than ever during the COVID-19 pandemic. It is those who give relentlessly of their time, their skills, and their energy to make life better for all Canadians. I could not be prouder than I am of the volunteers in my own riding. Today, I thank them who, through their work in community, church, recreation, social groups, in all walks of our society, for their contributions. They have extended their hand in times of need, and they continue to build on the solid foundation that make life enjoyable and better for others. I acknowledge all of those who give so freely, expect so little, but yet contribute so much. Our volunteers. Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Milton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm so happy today to share the good news story of Raufi Ka Oya Salami, a Milton resident who recently was crowned the season 4 winner of the Canadian Baking Show. Raufi Ka wowed the judges with a combination of natural talent and incredible flavors, inspired by her time growing up in her mother's kitchen in their home of Nigeria. A proud mother of 2, she loves baking for her family, and she sees it not only as a way to stay connected to her roots, but also as a way to share her Nigerian heritage with friends and neighbors. And when she's not baking tasty treats, she works as an IT support engineer, a background which she says gives her the scientific precision that was crucial to her success. Having come to Canada and Milton in 2017, Raufi Ka was delighted to find herself in such a diverse community where she could connect with other Nigerian and Muslim diaspora while being able to share the many cultures of our community. It was through sharing her baking with neighbors that Raufi Ka was able to share her culture. And while unfortunately I haven't yet been able to try one of her treats, I know Milton is proud to call her one of our own, and we're very, very fortunate to have her, and we're excited to see what she does next. Congratulations on winning the Great Canadian Baking Show, Raufi Ka.
The honourable member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada's economic recovery and future prosperity are under threat. This government's failure to quickly secure and distribute COVID-19 vaccines has placed the health and safety of Canadians at greater risk while we fall further behind economically. This government's inability to prevent the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline or reverse the decision to suspend Enbridge Line 5 threatens Canada's oil and gas industry and the nation's energy supply. The drastic reduction in foreign capital investment, the heavy losses of steel, aluminum, and auto jobs, and the punishing trade barriers and tariffs placed on Canada by both China and the U.S. have all occurred on this government's watch. This Prime Minister refuses to admit that Canada's situation is dire and that his government is responsible. Canadians fear that tomorrow will be worse than today and our children's future will be worse than our own. Canada's only path to securing the future is with a Conservative government.
The member for Argenteuil-La Petite Nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I would like to highlight the work and devotion of first-line workers and especially teachers and everyone working in the education sector during this extremely difficult part of the pandemic. Every day, I see for myself the hard work a dedicated teacher has to carry out to help autistic students who want to learn and who have to learn now, whether they're in class or from home. My wife, Melanie, has worked twice as hard to make sure that kids receive the best education they can. She can count on a really good team, Natasha and Didier, to help her, and without them, she couldn't do her work. We're talking about a lot of prep work, a lot of communication and planning, a lot of extra work for these educational professionals. So, on behalf of all the kids with special needs, thank you so much to the parents. And thank you to all those who work in education who help parents and help kids in this very difficult time. The member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals, with the support of the Bloc Québécois on Monday, voted to put an end to the Defense Committee's investigation into sexual misconduct at the highest levels of the Canadian Armed Forces. What's hiding behind this alliance between the Prime Minister and the leader of the Bloc Québécois, which has led them to shut down crucial testimony which could have shed light on this matter? You'll remember, Mr. Speaker, the wrenching case of former CAF member Stéphanie Raymond, who had to fight for 10 years to have the crime against her investigated, admitted, and punished. Mr. Speaker, at a time when women more than ever need to be protected, we don't understand why the Bloc members are accomplices in doing something which will silence this affair and which will prevent this Parliament from acting in the interest of protecting the safety and integrity of Canadian women. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Mr. Speaker, we have seen in a recent survey by M&P Limited that 53% of Canadians said that they are $200 or less from not meeting their monthly bills or debt obligations. Meanwhile, this Liberal government is increasing costs on Canadians. Carbon tax, a second carbon tax, alcohol escalator taxes, increased business taxes, elimination of family tax credits, and the list goes on. With a $170 carbon tax, I hope this Prime Minister knows that he is going to force this 53% to choose between heat and feeding their family. This government claims that they want to get Canadians back to work, but propose a tax that is projected to kill over 200,000 jobs across Canada. Liberals' tax increases disproportionately impact lower and middle-income households, single mothers, pensioners, and immigrants. If this Prime Minister cares so much about middle-class prosperity, why is he trying so hard to push Canadians into poverty?
The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay. The fight against opioids, fentanyl, homelessness have been a grim experience for people in the North, and every day we are losing people to overdoses. But I want to speak of an incredible initiative that is bringing hope and saving lives. The Firekeepers are a mobile team working 24/7 on the streets of Timmins to help the Indigenous homeless that all too often fall through the cracks. The Firekeepers are an initiative of the Mushkegowuk Council, and they're working in partnership with the City of Timmins, Living Space, DSAB, and the frontline workers who've been keeping people alive through this crisis. I was approached by the Firekeepers about making their dream a reality, so my office got down to work and we got them the funds so we can get the resources deployed on the streets of Timmins. We have a long way to go in dealing with the nightmare of opioid addiction and homelessness. We need more treatment facilities. We need the feds to actually put in place a national housing strategy. But I want to thank the members of the Firekeepers because their work will keep people alive and they will keep the citizens of Timmins safe, and that is really important at this time. L'honorable député de Beauport-Côte.
The honourable member for Beauport-Côte de Beaupré, Île d'Orléans. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers have lost a giant of Quebec music. Michel Louvain captured the hearts of several generations with his warm voice and his love for his fans. His songs featured many female names, which ended up being the names of women in Quebec, like Sylvie, Lison, Louise, and Marie. There was even a documentary made about his biggest hit. It was a 60-year love story between our national crooner and Quebecers. The height of his career came with Opus Il Chante Louvain, and when he sang with the Quebec Symphony Orchestra, he received an honorary award by the ADISC, and for his 84th birthday, he was still on stage. His friends talk about his worth, his professionalism, his class, his generosity. Everyone said, Michel, he has stars in his eyes. So on behalf of all of us, we offer our deepest condolences to his family and friends.
Éclairable.
Monsieur le Président, le Québec, Thetford Mine.
Mr. Speaker, today Quebec has lost a legend of music. The little boy who did good, Michel Louvain. Many of his songs featured women's names, and many men sang his songs in secret. His big success was La Dame en Bleu. He won many awards, and he won many very prestigious prizes as well. What he loved the most, though, was the applause from his fans. His biggest fear was to lose his fans, so he always took care of them. He was very respectful of them. And when he was on stage, he wanted to please his fans. And at 83, he had so much energy, he still wanted to go on tour. Michel Louvain said, "Everyone who worked with me, I miss them all. I miss my world." Well, Michel, we will miss you. To his spouse, his sisters, his fans, my deepest condolences. Buenas noches, Mr. Louvain.
The honourable member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to rise in the House and recognize the Elmira Maple Syrup Festival, the world's largest maple syrup festival. The festival is a local tradition dating back to 1965. Over the years, hundreds of thousands of guests from all around the world have visited Elmira to celebrate. And this past weekend, we celebrated the 56th annual and first virtual festival, featuring an online sugar bush tour, virtual taffy demonstrations, contests, and sales of pancake boxes featuring local syrup producer of the year, Hoover's Maple Syrup. The food, the entertainment, the sense of community that the festival builds is due to the tremendous dedication of the many volunteers who make this annual event possible. Since its inception, over $1.7 million in proceeds have been returned to our community to charitable and non-for-profit organizations. So congratulations to the Elmira Maple Syrup Festival volunteers for their milestone anniversary, their resilience, and their success. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Deputy House Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Deputy Prime Minister. After over 23,000 deaths, tens of thousands of businesses closed, people's jobs and livelihoods lost, after drug overdoses, suicide and mental health crisis at an all-time high, people being locked in their homes away from their families, and a third wave of COVID upon us. Can she explain why she thinks the pain and suffering that COVID has caused is a political opportunity, as she said last week, and not an absolute tragedy?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to answer this question, and with great respect. All members of this House, regardless of party, appreciate the nature of the immense tragedy that has fallen across Canada and impacted families and communities from coast to coast to coast. When we look forward to what might come out of this pandemic, we have the opportunity to make investments to cure some of the social deficits that we've been living with for generations. From the very outset of this pandemic, we made a decision to support households and businesses and to invest, most importantly, to protect the health and well-being of Canadians. We will continue to do so until this pandemic is over, no matter what it takes.
The Honourable Deputy House Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Thank you. That was a real ridiculous thing for the Deputy Prime Minister to say. The fact is these Liberals have messed up so many things in their response to COVID, but they won't admit it, they won't learn from it, and they won't change it. Today we've learned that Moderna vaccines scheduled to arrive mid-April are being delayed yet again, which means provinces are forced to close vaccination clinics and people are not getting their shots. That means higher case counts and more lockdowns. Responsibility for the third wave is the Prime Minister's. How many more Canadians will be infected with COVID because of this government's disastrous vaccine rollout?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, we've been there for Canadians and we've been there for provinces and territories, Mr. Speaker, in delivering on the things that we know are saving lives. Mr. Speaker, this is a difficult time for this country. It's a difficult time for all Canadians. It's a difficult time for the healthcare workers, the lab workers, the frontline workers, the essential workers, who are all trying so hard to support each other and care for each other. We'll be there for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, whether it's personal protective equipment, testing equipment, human resources, and indeed vaccines.
The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, the Prime Minister's failed vaccine rollout and spin is actually making international headlines. This morning's cover of the Daily Mail asked if our Prime Minister was jealous of Britain's vaccine delivery. It pointed out that Canada has 4 times as many new cases per day as the UK. And PM Johnson said he didn't have a response to our Prime Minister's comments, but that the British case data speaks for itself because their vaccine rollout is months ahead of ours. Can the Prime Minister admit that he's not only failing Canadians, but he's making an international fool of himself?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is really important that all of us work together now to save lives. It is important that we see cohesion in our messaging, and I surely hope that the member opposite is not working in any way to discourage Canadians from taking vaccination when it's their term. Let's be clear, every step of the way, we have given Canadians the information they need. We've supported Canadians with financial measures. We've been there for provinces and territories to deliver on their healthcare responsibilities. And Mr. Speaker, surely the member opposite would encourage the people in her riding to accept vaccination when it's their turn.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, Monday the Liberal government, with the complicity of the Bloc, put an end to the parliamentary inquiry into the sexual misconduct with regard to General Vance. The result is no one took responsibility and no one apologized. We will never know, then, the details of this sad story. It is a shame. Shameful and insulting to women who were brave enough and had the dignity to speak out. Why are the Bloc and the Liberals refusing to get to the bottom of this? The Honourable Minister.
Respect the work done by colleagues at the committee. In fact, I worked with the National Defence Committee on this matter quite extensively. I appeared before the committee 3 times and for more than 6 hours. I have repeatedly stated that each of these appearances, and many times in the House of Commons, that our government and me personally will not stand for any type of sexual misconduct and that we will be taking more action. I look forward to the committee's report on this matter and the substantive recommendations that will be coming. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Defence testified, but other people should have also testified. Unfortunately, Liberals, with the complicity of the Bloc Québécois, ensured that we could not get to the bottom of the case. We know that the Liberals have serious ethics failures. There's a reason why the Prime Minister was found guilty twice of violating ethics rules, and a third report is about to come out. We're talking about sexual misconduct at the highest ranks in the military. The Bloc and the Liberals, who call themselves feminists, are shutting the door on an inquiry about women. What message is this sending to female members of our military who have been victims of harassment? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the work that the committee does and the experts that who are talking is going to be extremely important. This is why I value their opinions. We need to figure out exactly what needs to be done. All options are currently on the table, Mr. Speaker. I look forward to those recommendations because we agree with all members of this House that more needs to be done and more will be done. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, second year of hell for farmers when it comes to the quarantine of temporary foreign workers. It was already difficult for them to assume the full burden of quarantines and the failures of new border controls. On top of everything, the federal government has the public health duty to ensure that quarantine is respected, yes, but it also has the duty to ensure that the tests are accessible and the results are received rapidly. Today, there are workers in quarantine, and they're far from the fields for more than 25 days due to administrative bungling. That's what it is. The crops won't wait for Ottawa to get things right. What will the minister do? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, we have worked with the other federal departments in order to accelerate the process and simplify as much as possible the arrival of temporary foreign workers. We know that there have been delays in the reception of the results of these tests. Public Health Agency of Canada and Service Canada have been in regular contact with Switch Health, the employers, and industry associations to resolve the problem. We take these issues very seriously, and we will continue to work with Switch Health. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, when the government gave Switch Health the responsibility to manage the COVID tests, it never made sure that the company had the resources to serve Quebecers in French. However, farmers are required to use Switch Health, even if the services themselves are lacking. Once again, Ottawa has unilaterally given a contract to a company that is unable to serve Quebec. And our farmers are the ones paying the price, Mr. Speaker. The minister is responsible for ensuring that Quebec has access to services as good as Ontario does. What will she do? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, of course, we are working very closely, and we understand that workers in Quebec must and have the right to receive services in French. That is why we are working so closely. We will continue to ensure that workers and Quebecers receive the services in French as is their right. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The third wave of COVID-19 is hitting hard. Times are difficult. During the third wave, it's time for paying taxes. People still need access to their benefits, and we need to help people. My question is this: will the Prime Minister commit to giving people more time to fill out their tax returns, as was done last year? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that this tax season is stressful for Canadians. We are continuing to be there for them throughout every step of the way. In February, we announced that those with emergency benefits would be entitled to tax relief in 2020. The agency put in place a solid system for tax relief to ensure that there would be no interest penalties if this was for reasons beyond their control. These measures will ensure that Canadians that need assistance during tax season will get that help. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is clear that the lack of vaccine supply has resulted in thousands of vaccination appointments being canceled and a slower rollout of the vaccination program across the country. This is directly the responsibility of the federal government, and they have failed. It gives me no pleasure to say this because Canadians want to get vaccinated. They simply can't because there is no dose available. Will the Prime Minister admit that his government's failure to ensure we could produce the vaccine here in Canada is what led us to this mess?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize that all Canadians at this time need to pull together to get through this third wave. For our part, the Government of Canada has already delivered 12.7 million doses to Canada. We have 8.9 million doses that have been administered in this country. We've accelerated 22 million doses from later quarters to earlier quarters. We are now third in the G20 in terms of the percentage of people with at least one dose. We'll continue to pull in millions of vaccinations. We'll provide them to the provinces and territories and assist them in whatever way we can, including with those low deads volume syringes that we have procured for the benefit of all.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Yesterday, the Globe and Mail reported that the government dropped specific COVID-19 screenings for travelers from Brazil, even while the P1 variant spreads throughout British Columbia. They also reported the health minister's office declined to explain why the extra screening was scrubbed. Her spokesperson directed the Globe and Mail to the Federal Public Health Agency, which did not provide comment. So why has the government dropped specific COVID-19 screening for travelers from Brazil?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And listen, Canada has among the strongest measures in the world at the border. Every traveler, no matter where they come from, is subject to testing on arrival. Then the traveler must wait in a government-approved hotel until the return of their test. Every traveler must further quarantine until the return of their 10-day test and their 14-day quarantine is over. And all positive tests are sequenced by our hardworking National Microbiology Lab folks. And of course, we will stop at nothing to protect Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
So is the minister saying that the reason why the specific COVID-19 screening for travelers from Brazil is because she feels that the other measures that they have in place is adequate and that there was no additional public health benefit to having the additional screening measures in place?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll just repeat, we have amongst the strongest measures in the world at our border. In fact, everything that we have added has created a situation where we are protecting Canadians from the importation of COVID. We are being able to track and sequence any positive cases. I will take this moment to congratulate the National Microbiology Lab during this National Week of Celebration of Laboratory Workers. And I will also say, Mr. Speaker, every traveler must quarantine for 14 days, regardless of which country they are arriving from. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to monitor our border, to protect against importation, and to support the provinces and territories in their fight against COVID-19.
For Calgary Nose Hill.
So if the minister is saying that the measures that were put in place prior to the additional screening being put in place were sufficient, then would she say that they put in place additional screening that had no additional public health outcome? And if so, why?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the member opposite has not been a fan of the mandatory measures that we've put into place at the border. In fact, she has spoken out against them on her social media channels. But I will tell you this, they serve an important purpose, Mr. Speaker. They protect Canadians from the importation of the virus. Every step of the way, Mr. Speaker, we have responded to science. We've been led by our incredible scientists and researchers. We'll continue to do that, Mr. Speaker, to support the provinces and territories and indeed protect Canadians' health.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the delivery of 1.2 million doses of Moderna that was supposed to arrive last week was pushed back to early May. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said that there could be some delays of a few days, but here we're talking about weeks. Quebec has gone back to its lockdown measures. Ontario has to shut down vaccination clinics because there aren't any vaccines. So my question, will the Prime Minister admit that his procurement strategy is a sorry failure? The Honourable Minister.
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question. We continue to manage the supply chain for vaccines while accelerating the delivery of vaccines that have been approved. 12.7 million doses have already been delivered to Canada.
Are on the way. We have accelerated 22 million doses from later to earlier quarters. We will continue to work together as a country to make sure vaccines get out to the provinces and territories. Ça, c'est notre travail chaque jour.
That is the work that we do every day and every night. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. The Minister has given a lot of figures, but the results are there, and they're pathetic. We're the laughter of the international community. But what is also difficult to understand is why the government decided to abandon the specific screening measures for travelers from Brazil. The reason given? None. There's no, it's just a secret. Once again, we're seeing the Prime Minister step back from fighting this virus and letting the provinces deal with it on their own. Is there anyone on the side of the House that can explain the Prime Minister's decision? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said many times in this House, we will stop at nothing to protect Canadians' health. We have multiple and layered measures of protection at the border, as the member opposite knows, including 14-day mandatory quarantine, including mandatory pre-departure testing, including mandatory arrival testing, including mandatory testing at day 10. And we'll continue, Mr. Speaker, to protect Canadians from the importation of this virus for as long as it takes.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, last year, at the beginning of the pandemic, we clearly said that the border was the first line of defense. They didn't listen. Then we said to put Health Canada officers at the airports. They didn't listen. Now they're saying we have the most strictest screening measures in the world. How can they explain that all the variants around the world have come into Canada if we already had very strong measures in place? Are they going to restore the screening measures for people coming from Brazil or not? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every traveler, regardless of their country of origin, is required to undergo some of the strictest measures in the world. Let me repeat, Mr. Speaker, all travelers must subject themselves to a pre-departure test and submit that test prior to boarding the plane to Canada. They must also subject themselves to a post-arrival test, Mr. Speaker, and wait in a government-approved hotel until such time that that test comes back negative. Mr. Speaker, then the traveler must continue to quarantine for up to 14 days. They must submit a day 10 test. Mr. Speaker, any positive test is also sequenced, so we understand just how this virus is shifting and changing.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, next Monday, the budget comes down, and if there is any segment of the population that can't wait on Ottawa, it's those who are suffering from serious illness. Right now, people with illnesses such as cancer must deal with financial precarity because they have been abandoned by employment insurance. 15 weeks of sickness benefits are not enough. They need 50. Monday, will these people finally be able to count on the federal government? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians want a flexible EI program that meets their needs. That is why in the past 5 years, we have modernized the regime and we have made improvements to ensure that it benefits Canadians. EI benefits are an important measure for Canadians who have to leave their job if they are injured or ill. Currently, too many benefits use all their benefits before they can return to work. That is why we have committed to extending the benefit period.
The député de Thérèse de Blainville.
The member for Thérèse de Blainville. To 50 weeks, I hope. Unfortunately, employment insurance does not meet the needs of people with serious illness. The 15 weeks of special sickness leave are not adapted to illnesses such as cancer, which often require longer recovery periods and involves relapses. 88% of Canadians are in favor of an increase in sickness leave benefits, which have remained unchanged since 1971. So after 50 years, will the government finally adapt an EI to meet the needs of people who are sick and give them the 50 weeks they deserve? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are dedicated to improving the employment insurance system, and we have committed to extending the sickness leave benefits. Of course, I will speak with HUMA committee this afternoon. It is looking at modernizing employment insurance. I am
to the committee about this weekend. Excuse me, Monsieur le Président.
My apologies, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, I want to honour the memory of Emily Saint-Fasson, a cancer sufferer. She fought to the end for women like herself to ensure they would have access to this essential 50 weeks of coverage. She had met with the Prime Minister, and he promised to take action. The House also demanded an increase to 50 weeks at the Bloc's initiative. This is not a request. It's rather a heartfelt cry. We appeal to the government's humanity. When will it finally adopt these benefits, as Emily asked for, to 50 weeks? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we offer our condolences to the family of Emily Saint-Fasson. I was there at the meeting that she had with the Prime Minister. And I think a lot about Emily when I do my job to modernize the employment insurance system. We are committed to extending, as I indicated, the benefit period for those who are sick, and we are dedicated to that effort. Thank you.
Member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, remember when the Prime Minister gave Loblaws $12 million for fridges? How about the $50 million he gave to MasterCard? Well, oops. He did it again. On Tuesday, this government cut a check for $655 million to a company owned by Fortis Inc. for the Lake Erie Corridor project. This is a company worth billions. The Liberals are now giving tax dollars to a for-profit company to sell electricity to the United States. Can the minister tell us why?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thanks to this project, Canada has an opportunity to export clean power, helping to reduce emissions, maximizing clean power use, and making electricity more affordable to Canadians. The Canadian Infrastructure Bank's investment in the Lake Erie Connector will give Ontario direct access to North America's largest electricity market, 13 states and the District of Columbia. It will reduce overall GHG emissions by giving those jurisdictions access to Ontario's clean energy. The Lake Erie Connector also gives the province of Ontario the ability to import more clean energy to meet periods of exceptionally high demand rather than firing up an additional gas plant within the province. This is part of our infrastructure plan to create jobs across the country, tackle climate change.
Member for Regina Capel.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if the project is so good, why can't this multi-billion-dollar company pay for it itself? They can. In fact, they were already going to. Fortis Inc. was already committed to the Lake Erie Connector project. The Infrastructure Bank was supposed to leverage private sector money to get new public infrastructure built. Instead, it's using tax dollars to build projects for billionaire private companies who are already going to build the projects in the first place. So simple question, who will own the Lake Erie Connector project once it is completed?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As this relates to climate change, certainly Canadians have been waiting for a very long time to see a serious climate plan from the Conservative Party of Canada. This morning, after reading through the Conservative Party's 15-page pamphlet, Canadians are still waiting. No mention of science, no numbers about how much these policies will cost consumers, no incentives to help Canadians afford an electric vehicle or retrofit their home. It is, and interestingly enough, a carbon tax that cuts less pollution, that costs more, and that takes away the climate action incentive rebates for families and replaces them with some kind of petro points where the more you burn, the more you earn. This is not a plan. This is a pamphlet that will do less, cost more, from a party that I'm sorry to...
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
The member could try to change the channel from his own corporate welfare scandal, but the fact remains that the Lake Erie Corridor is a project owned by a subsidiary of Fortis Inc., who, according to their own website, had revenues of $8.9 billion in 2020. Fortis is a massive energy company that makes huge profits. Last year, they paid out over $800 million in dividends to their shareholders. Why didn't this government just tell Fortis that they needed $600 million? They could pay for it themselves. Every day we hear from small business owners who are losing their entire life's work. Why does this government think that it's the billionaires who need a bailout?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, as this project relates to climate change, I think it's important that the Conservative Party can answer some questions with respect to the pamphlet that they released this morning. It is a pamphlet, not a plan. It has more holes in it than you could drive a truck through. And certainly the focus on a number of things, including putting a price on a tax on carbon, which in and of itself would be an interesting step forward if it was not so convoluted, complicated, and actually incent the creation of more pollution, more pollution into the environment. At the end of the day, we need to be skeptical. We need to look at this through thoughtful eyes. It is not a good plan, but it is also from a party.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, longshoremen of the Port of Montreal went on partial strike yesterday, refusing overtime. The management party is sticking to its guns, foreshadowing a labour dispute that could continue. The Liberals have already hinted at their intention to introduce a bill to force workers back to work. This is in complete violation of their fundamental rights. This is not surprising. Can the Prime Minister promise workers that he will allow the bargaining process to proceed? Can he promise that he will respect the integrity of workers' rights and that he will not impose back-to-work legislation? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague for this question.
Between the two parties have been ongoing for over 2.5 years.
On a un rappel au règlement.
The Honourable Member for Manicouagan is rising on a point of order. There is a lot of noise in the booth, in the House of Commons, and despite my earpiece, it's very difficult for me to hear, so I'd like to remind my colleagues to respect the other colleagues that are asking questions and answering them. You're right, I was going to point that out after the answer, but I will do so now, so thank you for having risen on this point of order. I'd like to remind members that if they want to speak, then they could go outside as long as they remain 6 feet from one another. However, 20 metres from one another is an issue because they have to start shouting. So I'd just like to remind everyone, sometimes we are in an impassionate setting here in the House of Commons, but don't forget how things work here.
The member says it's hard to estimate the distance, but I'm sure that the honourable members in the chamber can figure out the difference between 2 and 20 metres. The Honourable Minister.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for that question.
Negotiations between the parties have been ongoing for over 2.5 years, and our Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service has been there every step of the way. In fact, in February, I took the extra step of appointing 2 of our most senior mediators. We understand the impact that this is having on the Port of Montreal and the key role that it plays in economic activity in Canada. And I would like to encourage the parties who are now at the table as we speak to reach an agreement, and we will consider all options as we move forward in this very important matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, in recent weeks, the Russian Federation has increased attacks on Ukraine's eastern borders. This has been coupled with significant Russian troop movement, raising concerns amongst NATO and G7 allies about a possible further invasion of Ukraine. This could lead to devastating conflict, putting thousands of Ukrainian lives at risk. Canadians have an important and meaningful relationship with the people of Ukraine. The Liberal government must do more to support our Ukrainian allies. Will the minister please provide an update on the actions Canada is planning to take to deter possible further Russian aggression against the people in Ukraine?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague for the question. We have been in very close contact with Ukraine. The Prime Minister has spoken to President Zelensky. I have spoken to Foreign Minister Kuleba. We are speaking with our allies. We stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine against the amassing of unnecessary troops and equipment in Crimea and along the eastern border. And I can assure you that we are there for the Ukrainian people and with our allies on this particular situation.
The honourable member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have made great sacrifices this year, spending time apart from their loved ones to stop the spread of COVID-19. These public health measures are important, but we also know that Canadians need support in these difficult times. The mental health of Canadians is an issue I'm genuinely concerned about, and even though delivering these services falls to the provinces, I'm proud to see that the federal government has stepped up to help. Can the Minister of Health update us on the mental health supports our government is providing for Canadians?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member from Newmarket Aurora for his constant advocacy in this area and for his compassion and kindness for his constituents. He knows firsthand how disruptive COVID-19 has been for people and communities and how it's impacted all of our mental health. And we know that what helps is actually access to services, and we knew that we needed to step it up to help the provinces and territories in delivering on their responsibilities in healthcare. So that's why a year ago today, we launched the Wellness Together Canada portal. It's free. Over 1.2 million Canadians have used it, over 3.6 million times. Please check it out today for support.
The Honourable
Member for Richmond, Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, Laurentian University is facing a deficit of tens of millions of dollars that puts 69 programs at risk, including 28 in French. Programs that have been cut include political science, engineering, law, education, history, as well as many others. The Francophone community is entitled to French language university programs. Despite all the minister's fine words, can she actually tell us what she has done to concretely help Laurentian University? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we have always defended official minority language communities, and that's what we'll continue to do. We know that post-secondary education establishments are essential for the survival of communities throughout the country. We are ready to collaborate with them to make sure that Francophones in Northern Ontario have access to a post-secondary education that is strong, as is clearly indicated in our Official Languages Act reform document. We will continue to support these institutions because the future of our communities in both official languages come through these strong communities. Before the next question, when you speak with your microphone remotely, if your microphone is right in front of your mouth, it makes life very difficult for the interpreters. It makes it difficult for them to hear and harms them physically. And so perhaps if you could raise or lower your microphone just a little bit so that our colleagues can hear you and so that the interpreters can do their work in an efficient way. The Honourable Member for Richmond, Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, for 6 years now the Liberals have been in power. We still do not have a bill to modernise both official languages. The Liberals are not respecting French themselves. For example, through the We Charity, COVID alerts in English, and unilingual English documents tabled at committee, just to name a few. And we've now learned that the budget was never increased at Laurentian University under their government. So, can the minister stop blaming others, take responsibility, and undertake concrete actions to help Francophones at Laurentian University? For once and for all, the Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I stand strong with students and professors, and I know that this House shares my emotions with these students and professors at the university level at Laurentian University that are facing this very difficult situation. The Minister has been in contact with the province on the matter, and we are in solution mode. We are ready to work hand in hand with our colleagues at the provincial level, and to do so, we must not forget that education is a provincial jurisdiction.
Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday at Veterans Affairs Committee, Alan Hunter, a military and veterans advocate, spoke about the reaction from women in the military to the Liberal decision to shut down the Defence Committee study into sexual misconduct in the Canadian military. He said he's heard from women who've said shutting down the committee has sent a message that what happens to females in the service is not important and that they are second-class citizens. Hunter also said women in the military feel like they can't come forward now out of fear. How can the Prime Minister justify adding to a culture of fear for women who serve in Canada's military?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will do everything necessary to making sure that we have an inclusive environment inside the Canadian Armed Forces. We owe it to our members. We look forward to the recommendations that the committee will be making as they are talking to experts, including women from the Canadian Armed Forces. Mr. Speaker, all options are on the tables and we will take action. Thank you.
The member for Barrie Innisfil.
Asked whether he felt the decision to shut down the committee by Liberal members would put women in our military further at risk, Hunter said, and I quote, "I can say that since this happened, I've been contacted by females that have been assaulted, raped, and abused in the military. Some are still serving. They are absolutely terrified to come forward," end quote. The women are angry, and the Prime Minister doesn't. The women are angry that the Prime Minister doesn't want to hear their stories, or worse yet, that he doesn't care. Does the Prime Minister not see that by shutting down the committee and covering this up, that he's adding to a culture of fear for women who serve in our military?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we take these allegations extremely seriously, and we will be taking more action. The committee makes their own decisions regarding their actions. However, we respect the work that they will be doing. Nonetheless, we will be speaking to our veterans and also current serving members. This is an area that we must continue to make sure that we get this right. We will be taking more action, Mr. Speaker, and all options are on the table to making sure that we create an inclusive environment for all members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Montarville. Mr. Speaker, the entire Francophonie stands in solidarity with Franco-Ontarians in the face of cuts to Laurentian University. Yesterday, the Quebec National Assembly unanimously expressed its concerns. In New Brunswick, for example, the president of the University of Moncton said, and I quote, "We are all at risk. We did not think that this kind of event could happen in Canadian universities." Now, we know that the Minister is discussing medium-term cooperation with the province of Ontario, but is there a plan under discussion to avoid immediate consequences for students and faculty at Laurentian University? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I am overjoyed to see that my colleague shares our concerns when it comes to the future of Laurentian University. For our government, there is no doubt we need post-secondary institutions that are strong. For Francophones in the north of Ontario, we are ready to find solutions to reach this objective. They will always be allies of the Franco-Ontarian community. The Honourable Member for Montarville. Mr. Speaker, I'm extending an invitation to the Minister. We need a solution at Laurentian University before the 100 or so professors have relocated elsewhere, before students leave for Ottawa or for Quebec. We would welcome them with honour, of course, Mr. Speaker, but they have the right to essential services at home in Ontario. And above all, we need a solution before a single student, a short and medium-term solution before a single student abandons her or his higher education in French. Now, do the discussions with Queen's Park take into account this urgent need for action? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as I was saying with to my colleague, we are in the same boat. We are in the solution mode. The Minister is in constant communication with her counterpart, the ministers in Ontario, who has jurisdiction over post-secondary education. And from the very beginning, we have always been present for Franco-Ontarians to protect the language minority here in Ontario. I am proud to see that we have held a hand out to them, because now it's up to Ontario to reach out and hold our hand.
York Simcoe.
Mr. Speaker, the Chippewas of Georgine Island First Nation have been on a boiled water advisory for years. And even though half the island still doesn't have clean drinking water, the Liberals are pressuring the band to lift the advisory anyways. The Liberals are also refusing to work with the community to improve Georgina Island's water treatment facilities. Clearly, they think access to clean water for only half the residents is good enough. When will the Liberal government stop playing games and ensure that the Chippewas of Georgina Island and other First Nations communities have access to clean drinking water?
Good question. The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me reassure the members of this House and all Canadians that that simply isn't the case. I would note that when we took power, there were 105 long-term water advisories in effect. We put together a plan and invested $4 billion, and we've now lifted 106 long-term water advisories. No pressure is put on any First Nation. We work in partnership with those nations, including the Chippewas, and we will continue to do so, respecting their rights, respecting the rights of all Canadians to have access to clean and safe water.
Member for Mission Matsky Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, while Canadians are losing sleep wondering if they will ever be able to afford a home, this Liberal government readily acknowledges our system is a safer market for foreign investment than for Canadians trying to purchase a home. Why have the Liberals turned a blind eye to foreign speculation and the negative role it's playing in our real estate market? Is the government really okay selling our neighborhoods to foreign investors seeking to make a quick buck?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for the question. We brought back federal leadership in the affordable housing sector. We have brought back significant investments that were missing in action when the party opposite was in government. Through the National Housing Strategy, which is now a $70 billion plan, we are investing more than ever before in communities to ensure the availability of affordable housing in Canada.
Member for Desnete, Mississippi, Churchill River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, once again, the Liberals followed up an election promise to Indigenous people without results. The Minister of PSPC failed to set targets or even put in place a mechanism to measure the actual results for Indigenous procurement. In the Minister's 2021 mandate letter, there was no mention of the 5% Indigenous procurement promise to Indigenous businesses that was made in previous years. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister explain to the Indigenous business community why, rather than fix the failures, the Liberals have decided to just lower the bar for her department?
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member for his question. I would like to indicate that we are very, very committed to continuing to meet the minimum 5% target for diversifying federal supply chains in the area of Indigenous procurements. We have also made sure to target Indigenous suppliers. We've awarded 32 contracts to 24 self-identified Indigenous businesses, collectively worth $120 million, including for logistics and air charter services, among others, during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a priority for me, Mr. Speaker, and for my department, and we will continue to work to diversify.
The Honourable Member, l'Honourable.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, Bill C6 that seeks to end conversion therapy was tabled here. I know that the Justice Committee heard moving testimony about the importance of taking action against this destructive practice. This Friday, the bill will will send a strong message, to people of the LGBTQ2 community that they are valued and protected by this government. Can the Minister for Diversity and Inclusion and Youth highlight the importance of this bill? The Honourable Minister.
La députée.
The MP for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel is right. It is time for us to take decisive measures to end conversion therapy here in Canada. We must do all that is within our power to put an end to discrimination and violence. We know that young Canadians are our future, and we must protect them, therefore. Our government is strongly committed to protecting the rights of LGBTQ2 people without exception. The rights of LGBTQ2 people are human rights. And I ask all MPs in this House to support this bill without delay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, As a result of all the administrative problems of the National Revenue Agency caused by poor Liberal planning, Canadians will have difficulty delivering their 2020 tax returns by the 30th of April. Mr. Speaker, can the government extend the tax deadline without any penalty to taxpayers? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government understands fully that tax season is stressful for all Canadians and will continue to be here with them at every step of the way. In February, we announced that those who got emergency benefits and recovery benefits will have lesser interest if they table their 2020 tax return. The agency has implemented solid measures for taxpayers so that they don't have to pay interest penalties for reasons outside of their control. These measures will make sure that those who need help during tax season will receive help during tax season, Mr. Speaker.
Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With record debt and deficits, the wannabe disciples of modern monetary theory across the aisle have only one option, and that's to raise taxes. From the soon-to-be $170 a ton carbon tax, the Liberals punishing fuel standard, and even charging Canadians more for beer. That's the Liberal MO. But former Liberal MP and insider Dan McTagg has said he's pretty darn sure that a GST hike is coming. So my question is simple. Will the Liberals be hiking the GST in next week's budget?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, since the honourable member our plan to put a price on pollution, I'd congratulate his party on finally embracing the need to price carbon as well. Unfortunately, their plan is actually going to cost Canadian households more and do less for our environment. When it comes to the fiscal track Canada is on, I would remind the honourable member that the COVID-19 pandemic created immense costs, and our government was there to support households and businesses to weather the storm. When the budget is tabled on Monday, he will see a suite of measures that will continue to protect Canadians' health and well-being, support households and businesses through this pandemic, and set the course for an economic recovery that is inclusive, prosperous, and green.
Before going to the next question, again, I just want to remind the honourable members that social distancing is 2 meters, not 20 meters. So shouting across, please take consideration of the people who are asking the questions. The honourable member for Simcoe Grey.
Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 pandemic has hit seniors hard. Increases in the cost of prescriptions, groceries, delivery charges, service fees have them all feeling the pinch. $9 million last March, the United Way never trickled down to the seniors. $300 last June was not enough to make ends meet. But a 61-cent increase in OAS in December? That's just an insult. My constituent Lloyd Lancaster told me he and his wife put their increases together and decided to go out and have a cup of coffee. Is half a cup of coffee what this government calls direct support for our seniors in need?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank my colleague for the question. It is really unfortunate that the opposition continues to confuse the cost of living increase with the significant support that we did provide seniors during the pandemic. We know many Canadian seniors are facing significant health, economic, and social challenges due to COVID-19, and that's why we did provide them with significant tax-free support. Combined with the GST top-up, this provided over 1,500 tax-free dollars to support the most vulnerable senior couples in our communities. We'll continue to support seniors and all Canadians during this pandemic. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Laval-Lazille.
Mr. Speaker, this government knows that it is extremely important to strengthen our relation with Canada's allies and are committed to expanding Canada's global trade ties. The Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion and International Trade recently led a virtual trade mission to France. Could the Minister talk more about the importance of empowering Canadian business to diversify and expand their presence on the world stage? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for Laval-Les-Îles for this important question. 2 weeks ago, I indeed led a virtual trade mission to France, bringing together over 300 entrepreneurs. 36% are...
Madam, come, please.
20% are youth-owned, 20% are visible minority-owned businesses. This is inclusive trade in action, taking advantage of Canada's trade agreement with the European Union through CETA. Our government is going to continue to promote inclusive and sustainable growth through trade, building back a greener future and a sustainable economic recovery. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for South Okanagan West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, the people of Grassy Narrows First Nation have spent the last 50 years fighting for justice after industrial pollution poisoned their waters with mercury. 90% of the residents still suffer from mercury poisoning. 3 years ago, Grassy Narrows made a land declaration banning industrial activities on their traditional lands, but the Ontario Conservative government is now accelerating mining development on those lands. Why isn't the Liberal government living up to their responsibility to defend the rights and title of the people of Grassy Narrows?
Well, Minister.
I would thank the member for the question, Mr. Speaker. The member would well know that this government has invested historical funding into the Mercury Treatment Centre that was announced early last year to right a historical wrong that should never have occurred in the first place. And when it comes to advocating for the rights of Grassy Narrows, Chief and Council and the people of Grassy Narrows are fully capable of doing it, but we will also be their voice at the federal level for whatever they advocate to premiers across the country or to territorial premiers as well. Glad to do it, glad to speak up on their behalf at any time, but they are fully capable of doing it as well. Thank you.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada's climate record just continues to get worse. Most recently released data shows that our greenhouse gas emissions were rising right up to the beginning of COVID. Today's report from Environmental Defence demonstrates once again that fossil fuel subsidies are also going up, while a report from The Breach tells us that the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers secured their own special committee with Cabinet. The question here is, next week, when the Prime Minister stands up in President Biden's climate summit, will we at long last announce a target that's meaningful and holds to 1.5 degrees?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you for the question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Certainly, we have developed a comprehensive climate plan that enables Canada to move forward with the rest of the international community to meet our international obligations. A credible climate plan, though, requires increased ambition. The parties to Paris agreed that all would need to do more and increase ambition over time. Countries around the world are doing that, and Canada will be playing its part in the international community and seizing the economic opportunities. I believe that all parties in this House, with perhaps the exception of the Conservative Party, agree on the need for greater ambition. And Canada will be bringing forward a new climate target next week at the Earth Summit.
It being 3:10, pursuant to, is there a point of order? Oh, we'll do that after. It being 3:10, pursuant to order made on Monday, January 25th, 2021, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion at third reading of Bill C-14. Call in the members. La question est la suivante. Ms. Freeland, seconded by Ms. Schulte, moved that Bill C-14, an act to implement certain provisions of the economic statement tabled in Parliament on November 30th, 2020, and other measures be now read a third time and do pass. La période de 10 minutes pour...
The 10-minute period for those voting electronically has been activated, and the House will now proceed to the vote for members participating in person.
Please rise.
Mr. Gerritsen.
Mr. Gerritsen.
Monsieur Seri.
Monsieur Seri.
Monsieur Terrien.
Monsieur Terrien.
Madame Gill.
Madame Gill.